All right, guys. This came across my feed yesterday, and I kind of want to just take a look. Oh no, I came across a TikTok. I think of them talking about it. I'm like, I want to talk about this. I don't really know the specifics, but it's Bill Maher on the Triggernometry podcast. It's called "Stop Making Us Pretend." Bill Maher. I watched like 10 seconds of it. It seems to mostly be Bill Maher's frustration with the left. Fair enough. I understand as a progressive myself, there can be some aspects of frustration with the left. Same thing with the right, though. Let's not pretend that one side's crazier than the others. So let's see what we got here.
Left went to places that we all know are goofy.
Goofy.
They don't
like
fucking
Disney.
know that much. So don't make pronouncements like you have a monopoly on the truth.
It's interesting, just to that point, because I know this is like a little bit of a preview, but to that point alone, it's interesting how very little everybody kind of knows about what they're talking about. People can criticize, oh, you don't know very much. I probably know more than you, and I'm not even the most educated. But the reality is most people will just kind of watch somebody else and have an opinion on something, and they will just regurgitate that opinion based on the way that it makes them feel. Most people don't parse through information. I think I do a much better job parsing through information than most people. I'm not saying I'm perfect or the best. I'm just saying that it's not like I don't just go take something and run with it. I typically try to look into things to the best of my ability. But people on both sides, and the reason I bring this up is because even like progressives, even though they're mostly right about things, they don't know why they're right. They've just heard that it's the right thing to do. It is safer to be a leftist from a social perspective. And so people are like, oh, I believe this thing because of this thing, and they don't really have an explored idea on it. That's why they can't really give you answers to some basic questions. And that's why they can't parse through information. Like when it comes to Hamas and supporting Hamas, and I understand Palestine as well, but like understanding how that's so fundamentally against your core values. It's just an interesting thing. I'm not saying that you shouldn't support, I support a two-state solution, but it's interesting how you'll hear people like Hassan do a massive downplay of the tragedy of the terrorist attacks that Hamas will cause, but won't acknowledge the fact that they don't like, they're very regressive when it comes to any movement. When it comes to the rights of women, children, LGBTQ in general, they're objectively less progressive than in Israel. I'm not saying that should be a de facto thing, but it's interesting. It's just interesting, and that's one of those things where they can't parse through information. The left can't bring themselves to criticize Muslims or the religion of Islam at all. Like, you're allowed to criticize Christianity. You can kind of criticize Judaism, but you can't criticize the religion of Islam, even though they're all just as bad. But when it comes to us socially, you're not allowed to be like, you can. I mean, I just did. But that's just that, it's just a point that's been bothering me a little bit, I guess.
Why does that irritate you, Bill? Because
I don't like lying.
Ooh,
like you say, we don't want to pretend. Be a little fucking mysterious. Not everybody has to know your opinion on every fucking issue.
True.
Every kid you ever went to school with on Facebook, really? Just shut the fuck up. Everybody just shut the fuck up.
I guess it's
Bill,
kind of based
it's great to see you
by
again.
the fact that he tells us his opinion on everything, but okay.
Thanks. Good to see you again.
Thank you so much for giving us your time. Listen, we'll get straight into it. I always think of you as kind of the classical Hollywood liberal.
Okay.
And in the last few years, it may be unfair characterization, but in the last few years, you really broken with the orthodoxy here. You made a joke on your last show when you first came back after writer strike, kind of like about not having any friends in Hollywood.
Only because he set me up for it, but it was perfect at that moment.
Yeah,
it was funny. I mean, they left me; I didn't leave them. I mean, I'm the same. That's what I'm always saying. It's like the left went to places that we all know are goofy.
Okay.
And it's like I'm a comedian. I'm gonna make fun of funny. If you do, Obama was a scorched earth policy for comedy, which was great. He wasn't a buffoon. But I didn't.
Good for the country, bad for comedy.
Yeah, right. But that's not the case now with, identity politics and victim culture and cancel culture, hostility to free speech. These are all great targets and worthy targets. And I, was always willing to, people, I think, don't remember how much I was always willing to go after it on the left, but there just was less of it. Clinton wasn't an idiot either. I mean, he was They tried to get him out of office because of a blowjob. Whose side was I going to be on? Right? So, things changed. I mean, was it Jonathan Haidt? Is he the one who wrote the book? And his theory, I think he got it right. It was like 2015. It was like Gen Z ascends or something. And like, we thought they were going to backlash to the millennials. It just got like 10.
Popgood always talks about how there are Palestinians in the Israeli government. Okay, there are blacks in our government. Are we less racist and prejudiced? Yes, we are less racist and prejudiced as a country with black people in our government than a country that doesn't allow certain groups in their government. Right? You're confusing better for best. When I talk about Israel sharing Western values, they're within closer proximity to Western values, closer proximity to freedom for all groups of people, regardless of any context. Race, religion, sexuality, gender identity. Are they perfect? No, but they're better. They are the most progressive country in the Middle East. That should be a factor to you, unless you don't care about that. That's fine. Like if you're a conservative, like that's perfectly fine. Like you don't care about the freedom of LGBTQ people. Like I'm being all right. Like okay, that makes sense. But if you're a progressive, you should value that to the point where you go, there's something to this. There's an idea here. We should consider this instead of saying from the river to the sea, which is effectively calling for a Jewish genocide. I just want to be very clear about that. That's what. So
times worse. It's like AI. It was exponential.
But the problem is, Bill, is that
it's
you look
bait?
on comment.
Am I getting bait? All right. We're gonna ban the baiter. We're gonna ban the baiter. We're gonna ban him. We're banning the baiter. We're banning him. He's been baiting me all chat, dude. We're banning him, guys. He's out. He's out, dude. He's gone. We took care of him. He's done.
Comedy on TV, and with a few exceptions, one in particular being your show, it's got really toothless, and that's a dangerous place.
Well, I've gotten into trouble talking about this subject before, so I'm going to take a pass on this question.
Fair enough.
Because I'm friends with some of these guys. I certainly am an admirer of some of these guys and their talents. So, I do think, I will just say, your basic premise is correct, that there is one that doesn't look anything like the others, but that's partly also because I'm not a celebrity-driven show. I'm not having on sitcom stars and just, that's, what I'm doing here for Club Random more. No, I think we have great people here, but we don't necessarily talk politics. So they're doing, broad vaudevillian shows. I'm doing a political show. I don't hardly ever have a celebrity. I mean, show business people, yes, sometimes at the beginning of the show we'll have an iconic, Rod Stewart. How are you going to say no to that or something? But it's, but most of the show is a panel with, you were on it. It's got to be people who are like super smart about what the fuck is going on in the world. That's not what those guys, so some of it is just built in. And then, I have different takes on stuff. And,
okay.
It's. I tell you, there is a little too much like uniformity of opinion, premise.
And I think that's one of the main problems with society at the moment, Bill, is that it does seem to be a uniformity of opinion, both on the left and the right, where we just put ourselves into tribes and are scared because we're in tribes to actually go, hang on, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I may have told this story before, but like every year,
yeah, sure, I suppose, that does tend to happen. It's just kind of media representation of particular ideas now, right? So
I look at writers' packets, like see who's out there, and it's like this last the.
Okay.
Lack of diversity of point of view. It's one thing to write the punchline, but like, what is your point of view about a subject? So I think what they had to do was write about the events of that week, see if they can write a monologue joke. And I think it was the week when Meloni took over in Italy.
Yeah.
And it was like uniformly, she's a fascist. Now, I know the family has fascist roots. This came up somewhere in conversation, and I said, well, if we go back, the Democrats were the party of slavery.
Right.
So like everybody's got a past. So
Sure.
I don't know. I said I don't.
I mean, I don't know who they're referring to, but I think I don't know who it is. But I would just say fundamentally, it's probably a difference between the Democratic Party being the party of slavery like 200 years ago versus somebody else's past, 20 years ago. But I don't know. But I do agree people can change. So.
follow Italian politics closely, but I'm just not like like off the get-go going to say this lady's a fascist.
Yeah,
It's all one-dimensional, isn't it?
And that's what like every writer wrote based on the premise, like she's a fascist. I was like, okay, yeah, that kind of stuff. Like it just gets in the ether that this is the opinion to have, and people are lazy. They don't really, they want
That's
to
fair.
seem knowledgeable but not really know anything.
That's kind of true.
Nobody wants to do the reading. You know what I mean? Everybody wants to be the college kid who turns up, who knows what they're talking about, but no one wants to go and read the books.
You see that nowhere more than what's Israel. Whenever that.
Yeah, I mean, I knew it was coming. Absolutely, 100%, 1,000%, bro. It's fucking insane. I have no problem with criticizing the Israeli government because it makes perfect sense. But I mean, it's insane how it's real. It's surprising to me as a progressive how desperate progressives are to defend a lot of the situation going on. Like, again, you see Hassan saying, well, Hamas is just a reaction to. It's like, well, okay, maybe in some capacity, but Israel is also a reaction to being genocided and needing their own place in the Middle East. And it's like, how is it that you can be empathetic to the reaction of one side but not another? Like I said, two-state solution sounds great. We should get there. I believe that it's been proposed, and Palestinians haven't wanted to take it. But when you have like so many different countries in the Middle East that have tried to instigate war with Israel multiple times. There's a lot going on. Okay.
Now that the war is on, they just do not understand the history of this conflict and, that land. And so it's just screaming at each other over, identity politics. It's tribalism. Just,
True.
But there was another thing too, Bill, which I think where a lot of people, you gained a lot of people's respect, not that you didn't have it already from many people, but there were a lot of new people, and you've talked about it recently about how there are conservatives now coming to see you live.
Yeah, mixed audience is
Mixed, which is a great place to be.
great.
But I think part of the reason is that you really made a break with what people thought was your team over COVID. You really made a break with them.
Okay.
Absolutely. And other things, but you're right. I was very
What do you say about COVID?
forthright. I didn't hold back with what I thought. I mean, I had already been cast as an anti-vaxxer, which, it's almost impossible to
Well, what's his perspective on COVID? Because I liked because I actually watched Neil deGrasse Tyson on this podcast, and it was very interesting what he had said, and it came down a lot to the distrust that the government effectively sowed themselves when it came to the response to COVID. But it was like, COVID's a very new science. Or not COVID itself isn't, but this strain was, and they should have been open about like, hey, listen, this is the what we have based on all the available information. This is the best way to operate. As things change, we'll update you. As we have better understandings of things, we'll update you. New sciences are always changing. It's unfortunate. But you'd still be confident that you're acting the best way that you know at the time. And the government didn't really communicate that very well. And I think it's because they don't respect people enough to be like, hey, listen, XYZ. You got to give people a little bit more credit and be open and honest with them. It's usually the best way to operate. And so, like, I think that's where a lot of the distrust got sowed from COVID. Was over that. Plus, we did have a president who's fucking insane conspiracy theorist in general that thinks that he actually won the election. So, I think that there's multiple factors, but
deny that because it's very much like the witch. If she floats, she's guilty. That thing. Like if I say I'm not an well, that's what an anti-vaxxer would say. It's just these people. You can't argue with people like that. So, but no, my view has always been pretty much the same. I always made a theme on real time from the beginning. 2003, I remember arguing with Howard Dean, who was a doctor, in 2004 about medical, just taking that position of just, I'm not all in with Western medicine, and I think there's a lot of corruption.
Sure.
And I think this,
specifically when it comes to like, yeah, sure. I mean, we know that. That's why universal health care is kind of a necessity, because there can be a corruption in some of the pipeline. That doesn't mean that COVID is wrong or fake, because it's not. It was obviously very real. I worked in it, which gives me a different perspective than a lot of people who didn't. A lot of people didn't work at all because they stayed home. I didn't. My job was deemed essential. I was responsible for cleaning buses and sanitizing them every single day at a yard of like 200 throughout the pandemic. And so I was like very much present. I was very much in there. My uncle passed away to it. Very unfortunate, sad stuff. Like, he was like a father to me. And you get a different perspective. So it was a very real thing.
there's just a lot we don't know. Those are my two big ones. It's like, is there corruption? Yes, we just found out with the Sackler family, for example, the people who make
I don't know what that is.
what was it, OxyContin, and I think they got fined $8 billion.
They're basically peddling heroin. That's what oxys are, effectively. And so, like, yeah, huge corruption with that, 100%.
I mean, that's...
I would argue that the corruption usually comes in, like, pushing, sure, like addictive drugs for money. I don't think that really existed when it came to COVID. There was nothing addictive about getting a vaccine. But okay.
We know they're capable of being corrupt.
Sure.
For purposely hooking people on their hillbilly heroin. So we know they're capable of it. But even when they're not trying to be corrupt, I mean, I don't think they were trying to make a vaccine that then didn't prevent you from getting it.
Well, no. The vaccine, but it reduced the symptoms and reduced the chance that you would get it. It's a new strain, so they came up with the best they could on short notice. That was better than nothing, right? And again, if that was effectively communicated, we'd be in a much better place right now, I think.
They, of course, wanted that to be the result. They came up with a vaccine, I think, that is very appropriate for people who are not in good health. And probably if you have it, your life was saved by something that could have killed you.
Sure.
But I don't fit that profile. So I shouldn't have had that.
So the only reason I'm going to disagree with that is that, like, I understand, hey, the vaccine helps people who, like, it was a good preventative for people who were very high risk. Makes perfect sense. The reason why everybody gets a vaccine to prevent something is because vaccines can only prevent so much. They only build up so much immunity in your body. So if I take the vaccine and now I have a higher resistance to COVID. Let's say you don't take the vaccine, so you get COVID. And then COVID gestates in you, and it gets worse in you. And now there's a lot of COVID in you. And now I interact with you. And now you have so much COVID that my immune response isn't strong enough to resist the amount of COVID that you have in your body. That's why everybody gets a vaccine. That's why it only takes one kid not getting the mumps shot or whatever in a class for everybody to get an outbreak. It's never perfect, but it reduces small interactions. But if it's gestating in a person's body, it's so much that it's going to fuck you as other people up. So you reduce you reduce symptoms, you reduce your transmission ability. That's why everybody gets a vaccine. And this is one thing I will say, because Bill Maher is very smart. He knows that. And if he's acknowledging that it helps very at-risk people, for him to say, well, I shouldn't have to take it, that's silly to me. Because you know why you have to take it. You know what I mean? If you want to say, I don't care about other people, that's fine. But you know that's like how that works. So don't pretend like, I don't know what the hell are you talking about? So
yeah,
I didn't.
Is that why you spoke up about it? Because you just felt it was a one-size-fits-all solution?
Correct. It's not scientific.
What?
It's not even. It shouldn't even be a political issue. It should be a medical issue.
The hell
it's
are you
just
talking
medical.
about? What?
All of this stuff.
Well, right, but just to be clear, like, we had an excess death rate of like over 1 million people over 3 years in America alone, right? That it means that we track the data for people who die in general every year. Year over year, for 3 years, it was like 300,000 plus more people were dying than what was projected. Okay? Most of that was COVID. That's with the response we gave. Imagine no response. I think it is kind of an entitled perspective to be like, COVID wasn't a big deal. It means that you probably didn't work during COVID. You're probably like a lot of other people who got to stay home, either work from home or you got paid to do absolutely nothing. I worked during COVID. A lot of my family worked during COVID. And it's like, it was worse than you think. It wasn't good. It was not a good thing. So just, let's not downplay the severity of it. Just because you didn't have to, like, 'cause he's in an entitled job. Like, he's got a nice job where he's not really around the day-to-day person. He has the very easy ability to stay away from certain people and follow certain protocols. That's not everybody.
So, yeah, I mean, I've certainly lost plenty of people, but those kind of people were never really gonna be completely happy with me, and they never were completely happy with me. They didn't like me about religion stuff.
But Bill, isn't the problem as well, and you've just alluded to it actually, is you said politics got involved. Now, all three of us sitting here,
COVID.
yeah, with COVID,
yeah.
but with everything. Politics gets involved now with everything.
Yes.
Every
Well,
decision
yeah, of course politics were going to get involved with COVID, though. It's silly to insinuate otherwise, so.
you make, you just see, like a perfect example of this. Constance and I were in Amsterdam, and we saw, one of these, flamethrowers or flame jugglers, whatever it's called. Okay. And before he started his act,
A street performer.
a street performer, that's it. Before he started his act, he gave a 5-minute political lecture about the Dutch right-wing government, and I'm like,
And then he started juggling balls.
Yeah, I mean, we do live in a time now where it's very difficult to be apolitical for a lot of people. Everybody's expected to have an opinion on everything. I understand that. It can be annoying in some spaces. But again, something like COVID, I understand people who maybe complain about people taking a knee at a football game, right? I get that because it's a fucking entertainment, That doesn't mean that I don't support people that do that, but I understand that. But when it comes to something like COVID that has drastic negatives for everybody, it makes sense to politicize that, right? Because it became a political issue because there had to be we had to implement something to deal with the problem.
Perfect.
you just go. Even with someone like this, I still get politics rammed down my throat. I mean, that's the
Right.
problem, isn't it?
That
Sure.
is certainly one of the
Political
problems.
podcast,
It's a theme also in my stand-up act now.
I will say, just to be clear, also, there's part of this too, is that we all, you're engaging, you're a political person, you have a political podcast, so you're going to be introduced to politics more than anybody else, and you're going to notice politics more than other people. That's another thing people don't really, you're more aware of what's going on, you're more aware of something being political. So where other people may not necessarily. I'm not saying specifically the street performer story. I'm just saying just fundamentally in general.
At the end, when I'm talking about how we can't go the Marjorie Taylor Greene, we need a national divorce route. We can't. We cannot get divorced, even if we want to. It's just not practical. It's stupid. So we have to learn to, yes, get along and just live side by side with assholes you can't stand, and and part of that is just not always talking about politics. We never used to do that when
It's surprisingly, as much as I talk about politics on my, I don't never talk about them in person. I don't talk about it with my mother or my family. I never introduce a political conversation. It's just not interesting to me. I'm not trying to do that all the time. It doesn't need to be constantly said.
I was a kid, parents and saw them with their friends, and it was almost considered impolite.
Yeah.
Politics and religion. Mm-hmm. So you didn't know that you hated this guy, right?
Sure,
you didn't, he was just your neighbor, and they got along great. And, don't share everything would be one of my big pieces of advice.
I agree with this so fundamentally, dude. Especially on TikTok. Not just politics, but people are going on telling us about their traumas. Stop telling me about your trauma on TikTok. It's not good for you. It's actually bad for you. It's making your trauma worse. Going on TikTok and using it as like a sympathy bait is not making you feel any better. It's making you feel worse. So that's just some general advice there. Chill the fuck out.
Be a little fucking mysterious. Not everybody has to know your opinion on every fucking issue. Every kid you ever went to school with on Facebook, really? They have to know what you think about ivermectin? Just shut the fuck up. Everybody just
it's like a plague, no? One person gives their opinion and the other person gets offended, so they give their opinion and it just kind of goes back and forth.
The fuck up about politics 24/7, and otherwise we're always going to be this. Because is anybody ever convinced of anything?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, we can't even agree what men and women are anymore. So if we can't,
I guess it's kind of like we know that that's not true. We can agree. We know it's just a difference between gender and sex. It's not really that big. There are some people who are annoying about it, but it's not like a huge. It's not like this huge, like, oh, we can't even agree with what men and women. But we can. Yeah, men, we just have a conversation about gender versus sex. We've always had the conversation about gender versus sex. Always. Anyway, no, you haven't. Yeah, we kind of have. You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't, like, I think any man would agree if a man rapes a woman, that's not a real man, right? So that's right there, understanding that they're still a male, they're still biologically a man, but you understand that from a philosophical perspective, they're not a real man. That's all the conversation is, just evolving. It's not that big of a deal. We're not gasping for air.
Agree with that about that. Then how are we going to agree on something like Israel, which is a very, very serious, complex issue?
Well, you can tell the women from the men in my hut. I don't know I don't know what you're doing, man.
Well, we're more
That is
progressive.
not a problem. No, I know. I mean, it's easy to say. Of course we do, but
Okay.
yeah, I mean, that's one of those issues. But to me, it's always like, if we weren't crazy and completely political, like you say, and always partisan about everything, we could just agree, okay, some people are trans, so their gender thoughts don't match with their gender equipment. Of course.
Yeah, sure.
And also some of it's trendy.
True. That's 1,000% true. There are absolutely 1,000% trans people exist, and then also 1,000% there is a trendy nature to it. You know what I mean? There are people who are experiencing real gender dysphoria and real gender euphoria, and then there are people on TikTok who want to say that they're non-binary so that they can garner attention from people. And since it's an internal experience, it's difficult to figure out like who's accurate and who's not accurate. And so people are very skeptical. And while I don't blame, people who are trenders, I don't blame them fully for the issues that trans people are experiencing, because they're also transphobic people. They are part of the problem. And it is true. There's a level of truth to that.
Nobody wants to get on that obviously true center position. I'm not saying it just because it's taking from both sides, because it's actually true. Some of it is trendy, and it's also a real thing that should be protected.
Based.
Really, nobody could run on that kind of shit. There's nobody out there who could fucking just take all the issues and kind of do that. The border, yes, we need to just not have a one size fits all. And also, we're not going to bomb them. It's like everyone just goes to what's nuttier.
Isn't it weird? It's either trans women are women, doesn't matter if they have a penis. Or on the other hand, it's women need to go back in the kitchen. Isn't there some kind of middle ground there?
I just
probably what Bill Maher just said. To be honest with you, I kind of feel like these Triggernometry guys are a little bit obsessed with the trans people. There's absolutely criticisms when it comes to sports. I totally understand. Cis women not wanting to play with trans women makes perfect sense. You talk about it reasonably, but they just kind of seem to be like, yeah, isn't this trans shit fucking weird? It's like, okay, sure. It's almost boring when you talk about trans people so much, because it's they're not even a significant part of the population.
I feel like we talk about these issues on this kind of show and all over the news and everywhere so much, and it's just a very small. Not that they shouldn't be respected, but it's just a very small.
Yeah, Bill Maher's being super fucking based right now. Holy shit!
It reminds me of Albert Brooks once said, TV. It's every show's about a private detective. If you look in the phone book,
dude, this video so far is crazy. Bill Maher's actually a nail on the fucking head when it comes to this issue. He's like, yeah, it's a problem, but we don't need to always talk about it. It's absolutely words out of my mouth on that one.
There's only two real private detectives.
Yeah. I know what you mean, and I get frustrated talking about some of the stuff because a lot of it isn't that interesting. It really isn't.
Well,
a lot
clearly
of
it is to you because you talk about it a lot.
Things
you mean the
trans thing
right.
and all that other stuff? Because as you said, we all know what the fucking truth is, right? And all of these...
I don't think so. I think that Bill Maher disagrees with you. So when you say you know what the truth is, okay.
Political posturing positions are insane. However,
okay,
I do think that, the idea of truth is really important.
Very.
Sure.
And so what bothers me is people making me pretend
right.
that things that are
Right.
blatantly false
Right.
are not. Like the emperor's naked
That's-
and he's got his dick out.
No, you said it very well. Making me pretend. That's what, like a
Well,
lot
not
of
really. I mean, that's such a vague statement. That can mean anything. Like, I agree. But there are subjective and objective truths. Like, an objective truth is that, like, have a hand, right? A subjective truth is what I call it, right? There's an objective truth of somebody having a particular identity issue. That's an objective truth that people have. It's subjective. What is the cure for that? Some people's cure for their identity issue is to be super religious. Some people's cure for that might be to be trans or have gender dysphoria. You know, and I think it's interesting we live in a society where we will say, oh, trans people are objectively not real. But you'll say that your God is objectively real, even though you have no proof. And it's interesting the burden of proof that's required for trans people, that even though there's more evidence that they exist than there is for religion. Even though every religion has like 3,000 translations of the same text that they have. There's multitudes of different religions, monotheistic and polytheistic, that have existed across time, multiple similarities, but differences in this way. And there's tons, thousands of translations and versions of this and that and the other thing, but somehow that's real, but trans people aren't. It just doesn't make any sense.
the people who watch shows like yours and mine like about what we do is it's just that protestation. Don't make me pretend. Like there's just a lot of pretending because the far left woke people are so intimidating. They're
Spooky boy.
they have crazy, stupid ideas about a lot of stuff, but they're really good at media, and people are just intimidated that.
I feel like most of the far left shit really just comes from annoying kids on TikTok. I think we give them too much credit sometimes. You know, I think we give them a little too much credit sometimes. Yeah, what's up?
The mean girls of Twitter will destroy you. So you can just be really out there with whatever you say, woke-wise, and even the people who know better will just, nah, it's going to let that one pass.
Maybe
Too
sometimes, sure.
dangerous, you know. And so that's how you get a lot of the stuff that, like you say, we don't want to pretend.
No.
I mean, I don't want to pretend that, women and men in sports or anything comparable. I mean, if the worst NBA team played the best WNBA team, the score would be 1,000,000-0.
Yeah.
That's no insult to women. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And to make me pretend,
Sure.
Why does that irritate you, Bill? Because
I don't like lying.
Well, see, I was going to.
I just don't bullshit me. You can. I have tons of friends on both sides, even far woke, far Trump, whatever. As long as you're sincere, but don't fucking lie to me.
Sure.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
And you know the other thing as well, Bill, that I feel it a lot is just fucking leave me alone.
Okay.
You know, that
This is a mess. This episode's a mess. I agree with Bill on pretty much everything, but this episode's like a weird mess. These two are like kind of just floundering around, just saying kind of just vague sentiments like, yeah, leave me alone. And like, okay, me too, man. I can feel that. Sure. Like, I don't know. It's weird.
I got that more than ever with COVID, where it just felt that it was almost a reason for the government to stick their little finger into your life and also incentivize
Like, why are we still talking about COVID? It's like pretty much over. Like, like okay.
other people to do it as well.
I think that it's just a response to a deadly outbreak.
I think a lot of people in government and the medical community, they sincerely believe they're doing the right thing.
That's because they probably
They're,
are overall. yeah.
safetyism. They see safety, which is the short-term good of lockdowns and masks and mandates and all that kind of stuff. I mean, first of all, they may not be right about the efficacy of the vaccine, but as far as safety, they think they're doing the right thing. But they're in the system. You know, it's that kind of thing where, do you really know you slowly just fall into the groupthink of, okay, this is how we handle the problem, lockdown, vaccine.
I mean, this is the thing. The problem with the government conspiracy angle around COVID and the control angle around COVID is that the economy took a dip during COVID. No government, no institution wants that. So to sit here and be like, oh, I think they just want to control and lose money, I don't think that makes any fucking sense. We know that the biggest motive for any government agency is profit incentive. So it seems silly to suggest that.
Not that vaccines, are to me a tool that I'm very glad we have.
Yeah.
But I should get to pick whether I want or not based on
We've never done that. You have to get certain vaccines if you want to put your kid into school. We've never done that before, just to be clear. So nobody's been, well, some people complain, but we call them crazy.
Pathogen and my situation. And there could be something that comes along where I would be the first online.
Okay.
Vaccines generally work.
Yeah.
Sure, this one worked too.
Bill, I want to come back to this conversation about lying because it's interesting to me. I really respect your work. As one of the reasons is I've always been more interested in satire than comedy. And you, at your best, I think, are satirical in that you are talking about political issues. You're making fun of both sides very often. And I think that really is the job of people like you is to point out where the hypocrisies are, where the lack of truth is, etc. But not many people are now doing that with comedy, it feels like.
Well, they do it on one side. They pause when it comes down to saying something that's going to make their completely liberal audience disapprove.
Yeah, maybe. Sure. I understand what he's saying. Some people are afraid to say things that they feel like might be a little bit of a spicy take, and it dictates people's takes. That's why you have so many progressives doing a very heavy, anti-Jewish, pro-Palestinian perspective. I see very few people saying two-state solution. I see a ton of condemnation of Israel's actions, but none of Hamas's actions. They'll be like, Israel's committing war crimes. So is Hamas. Well, that's okay because their land was stolen. No, it wasn't. It was given to the Jews in, 1948 because they were just Holocausted. Well, what? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, criticize both actions, but they don't, right? Because you get in trouble if you criticize Palestine or Hamas and on the left. I do agree with that. I think that it happens on both the progressive and the liberal side, but generally more people are going to be, progressive because it's usually safer, publicly. And you get kind of casted into this sphere or into this idea that you're crazy on some issues, or you're just a crazy conservative if you have any conservative leaning opinions. And I think part of that is because once you don't have the right opinion as a progressive, you kind of get casted away in this weird way. And so it kind of makes people lean more towards being a little bit, crazier when it comes to their, that's how people become very more conservative sometimes, is that once you kind of get canceled by the left, you're no longer welcome there. It kind of makes you go like, oh, okay, I guess I just have a conservative audience left, and you kind of slowly push into that sphere, whether it's intentional or not.
They take the path of least resistance when it comes to stuff on the left that is worthy of making fun of.
Sure.
Because the audience doesn't want to hear that. Or they really believe it. I mean, it's more by omission, they'll do Biden jokes about his age or something like that, which is fairly anodyne, but you never really are in question about what the take, what the point of view is.
That's the point. But the point of view, it's so important, and it's so important that the point of view is not boring. That the point of view is not the same as everybody else's point of view.
My friend calls it "let me guess" policy. It's brilliant, and let me guess, and it's always, and I'm not ever let me guess.
That's so uninteresting, isn't it?
And they just won't. Like I remember there was this. About 2 years ago, shooter, some nut, mass shooting in, I think, Atlanta, and he killed a bunch of Asian people because they ran massage parlors. Do you remember this case?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
I don't remember.
And I read the stories, and it was clear by the end of the week, and I said on the air, it's not what the media is saying, that he wasn't mad at Asians. He was mad at people who were jerking him off because he was a Christian. Everybody in his life said it. The FBI said it. And the other people would not move off this narrative. And that's the difference between truth and narrative. It's like the narrative is, it's part of this giant...
I mean, listen, the only time I'd be mad at somebody jacking me off is if they did a bad job, so... Okay.
Anti-Asian crime wave. And I'm sure there are horrific crimes that are, committed against Asians.
Well, I imagine this was during the height of COVID when there was a lot of anti-Asian sentiment because they blamed all Asian Americans for the sins of the actual Chinese government, right? Or alleged sins of the Chinese government. I guess we don't really know. They're saying it came from dogs, but some people think it might have come from a lab. I don't know. It doesn't. I mean, that makes no sense that a lab would have that happen. It's not like they have labs that study these things. It's not like that sometimes things can accidentally get out. Okay. Makes no sense to me. Sure.
As they are against other people's, and we should stop them all. But this was not one of them. They just shoved this fucking thing, hole that doesn't fit. Get in there, get the fuck in. It's like,
dude?
And I hate that shit.
I think we all do, because what
I
it
love
puts us in, Bill, is in a really dangerous position where we stop believing what we've been told in the news and newspapers.
yeah.
And once that happens, you're in a, like I said, you're in a really dangerous situation because people go, this is all fake, this is all fake. So when the next pandemic comes along, for example, as it will do, or there's some other type of emergency, you're just going to get whole swaths of people going, I don't believe any of this.
It's interesting that you acknowledge that and you know that. Okay. Yeah.
Well, the CDC has already lost a lot of credibility.
Sure.
I mean, I think they all did when, people lived through it. So they remember, oh, yeah, I remember washing the mail for 6 months for no fucking reason.
That's the problem with this take. Well, people lived through it and it wasn't that bad for them. Yeah, because we shut down the government. Not the government. We shut down. The reason COVID didn't seem so bad is because we shut down everything. I worked through COVID. It was bad. It was not great. It wasn't fun. The weather was a lot nicer. I'll tell you that. Very interesting. Weather was much nicer. Because less cars on the road. Traffic was awesome. But it was fucking real, dude.
Washing the mail, really? So, again, my big theme, they don't fucking know that much. So don't make pronouncements like you have a monopoly on the truth. It's so anti-science that people are like, follow the science.
Yeah, well, the science disagrees with you, just so you know, but okay.
He's so anti-science.
Okay.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Am I going to die here for real? Damn. I enjoy Bill Maher. I'm liking most of what I'm hearing, but you're the one wrong about the science. Just to be clear, you're the anti-science guy in this case. I'm just letting you know. Yeah. The CDC should have been more honest about some things. They may have sensationalized some things because they didn't think people would be able or equipped to handle some information. Totally valid criticism. But that doesn't mean that it was fake or exaggerated. Taking the vaccine was a positive step. The reason that you remember it as not so bad is because you're rich and didn't really have to deal with it in the same way other people did. And because you didn't work a middle-class job. I did. I had to work. It was fucked.
That's so true. And Bill, did you see this coming? Because I remember
it's very disconnected.
COVID?
No, not COVID.
No, I did
Mate,
not.
he was there. He was there in China.
In the lab, just
I did not see it coming.
No, I don't mean this. I mean the culture. I mean where we are now as a society.
No.
Because But I do remember your stand-up from way back when, talking about how we now prioritize feelings over truth
Yes,
and all of
right.
this stuff.
No, I mean, my first show was called Politically Incorrect.
Right.
Yeah.
That was 30 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
I definitely recognized it as political correctness, which I was asked a lot because I named the show that. It was like, what does that mean to you? You know, the elevation of sensitivity over truth, I think, was one of my big answers. And just the opposite of, you know, when someone is political, it means they're full of shit, usually.
Yeah.
You know, I was very political about it. Politically incorrect was, let's just say what it is. So I did see that it was a problem 30 years ago.
Yeah.
It just got worse.
but-
I mean, I tried to put a stake in its heart, and it obviously
Just made
struck
it, you made
much
it.
more,
Yeah.
especially with the internet, but
Yeah.
also the generations. I mean, we just keep making each generation is more fragile.
Yeah.
If you can believe it, they said that about my generation.
Yep.
From the World War II, people were like, these boomer kids are so.
Yeah, I mean, listen, here's the thing. A little bit of a hot take. Getting more, or I wouldn't say fragile. Becoming more sensitive as a society isn't fundamentally a bad thing. But there are areas where it gets too sensitive. I agree with that. You know, you're going to be a little bit more sensitive if you grew up with your life being easier. And that's what happens. You know, generation over generation, things get generally easier. And that's why I guess Bill Maher's generation got called sensitive, and so does my generation. And I understand that. It's not fundamentally a bad thing until you start identifying, like, well, why? You know, well, you can't say certain things. Some certain things shouldn't be said. But then sometimes you can't say certain things even in a respectful manner. And then it's like, okay, obviously you shouldn't be saying slurs. That's a reasonable amount of sensitivity. But then you can't even question some things or ask some questions about different things. You know, God forbid you and this is just the one that comes to mind. God forbid you mention, like, oh, you can be racist to white people. Some people will be very annoying and toxic about it and tell you that you're some kind of a racist piece of shit for not understanding complicated systemic oppression history. You know what I mean? So, you know, sensitivity again by itself, not a bad thing, but not all of it is good, you know? So
Spoiled. Why we don't even beat them every night, you know. When I think of like how idyllic I think my childhood was, but also like so different than kids today, and not coddled nearly as much.
No, but you know what I was thinking about political.
And I will say one of the things that stunts people's growth as people, young people's growth as people, is the inability to really get like housing. Right. I mean, it's a factor. It's hard to find a house now. It's hard to get it move out. It's hard to exist in our, you know, economy in general. There's fewer opportunities. It makes people mature slower. So
30 years ago, it wasn't really the same people doing it. Like my heroes growing up, it was George Carlin and Bill Hicks, and these people would, and you were also talking about religion, because it was the Christian right,
Right.
who wanted to shut people like you down.
Oh, yeah.
They wanted you not to be able to joke about religion.
No, that's
And now it isn't them really leading the charge. I know they exist. I know they're out there. I know they don't like you joking about religion, but they're not the driving force behind political correctness in 2023. Would you agree with
no,
that?
of course. That's
true that.
again, that's my fucking defense when people are like, "Well, you've changed." No, they changed. Like, every issue I could do that with. We're like, this is old school liberal and this is woke. Like, I noticed we have completely given up on the idea that the thing to do if you're overweight is diet and exercise, which was like bedrock. I mean, it was Michelle Obama. Michelle Obama we loved her for that. She took the perfect message, first lady.
Sure, I agree with that. And then she had like healthier foods in schools. I agree with that. Like, yeah, I kind of understand where you're coming from with like the, I guess you say, body positivity movement. There's not all negatives to the movement. It'd be nice if there was more movement. You know, I understand that. Body positivity is supposed to say, hey, listen, fundamentally, body positivity is about accepting yourself, loving yourself, so that you can work on yourself, having more confidence, and not bullying people just for the virtue of them being fat. Obviously, that's turned into more like you know, overweight models and whatnot. But the reality is, these dudes like to jack off to overweight models, whether you want to admit it or not. It's just a fact. I don't know what to tell you. So there's part of it's that too. Guys like jacking off to overweight models that sell stuff. There obviously are more obese women and men going on, so there's going to be more normalization of it. I'd say a lot of it's like kind of systemic. We live in a very lazy society because we have technology now, and so it's harder to be more active. We also live in a society full of fear. So technology contributes to making our jobs easier, so that there's less movement going around for people who are overweight, but also contributes to fear of everything. Year over year, we are safer. Every single year, we are safer. And yet, year over year, people report that we are less safe, and they get more upset, and they're less willing to go outside and less willing to go and do stuff. That's part of the reason why people are fat. They don't want to, you know what I mean? It's just everything's bizarre and crazy.
Now that's like...
Also, like really addictive fast foods, all this other bullshit,
I mean, you never read in the New York Times that, like, no. It's just in fact, we don't know really why. I mean, they're kind of on that page, but we have Ozempic, and once again, it's a pharmaceutical solution.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's a giant conspiracy.
No, it's not. But it's also supposed to be for people to help them with their diabetes. It's not supposed to be for everybody to just take.
Saying drug makers are not in the business of healing humanity. They're in the business of selling drugs. They do it by healing humanity a lot. I mean, I'm glad we have pharmaceutical companies. I mean, we need their shit sometimes, and they've done a lot of great things, but they want to sell drugs.
Do you think?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, but most fat people are just not losing the weight, and then they get on Ozempic. You know what I mean? Like there needs to be a certain level of accountability, not just for the drug companies in some of these instances, and also in some instances on the people too, who are like, yeah, you know what? Fuck it, I'll go on Ozempic. It's easier.
If they have one that can make you lose weight, they'll sell it to you, and they're not. Are they sure about side effects or what the real health repercussions? I think we're kind of like, I mean, they don't know why it works.
That's not true. I'm pretty sure they know why it works. Ozempic works because it usually will. I forget specifically. My mother's on Ozempic, and she was explaining it to me after the doctor explained it to her. It has something to do. I don't remember what it is, but it makes you fuller. I think it might shrink your stomach or something. They know why it works. I specifically can't tell you what my mother said. I didn't internalize it because she just talks. But why would you? What? Let me just Google it. It's okay. This is why Ozempic helps you with weight loss by slowing down how fast food travels through your digestive tract. This may help you feel fuller for a longer period of time. Okay, so we know how it works. The weird claim from Bill to say that we don't know how it works. This is why I say that. What the
you
fuck?
know that?
No.
We do.
They have no idea why it works.
What?
They know that it works, not why, not a clue.
What?
So wouldn't that give you pause?
What the fuck is he talking about? What? Wait, sorry.
About side effects or make you lose weight?
Do you think?
What? Okay. Okay. All right. What the fuck is he talking about?
Yeah, it's true.
If they have one that can make you lose weight, they'll sell it to you. And they're not. Are they sure about side effects or what the real health repercussions? I think we're kind of like, I mean, they don't know why it works.
What is he talking about?
You know that?
No.
They have no idea why it works.
What? Yes,
They know
do.
that it works, not why, not a clue. So wouldn't that give you pause?
It would do, yeah.
Okay, so again, like, this is where liberalism was.
What is he talking about? We know exactly how Ozempic works. It helps you lose weight because it slows down your digestive tract, making you feel fuller, and then it simulates a hormone for the production of like your own natural insulin. What is he talking about? They don't know how Ozempic works. What? Why would he make that claim? That's a Google search. What are you talking about? What? That's so easy. Of course they know how it works. What is he talking about? I like Bill Maher, but this is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard him say. What are you saying? What?
Was 10 years ago, and this is where it is now.
What?
Bill, do you think sometimes the problem is every time that we come to America, it's
That's the problem.
yeah, that is a problem. It's
Every
when
time
we
we
come
come
to
to
America,
America, it gets worse.
yeah.
Right.
But it's a culture built around consumerism and ease, making everything as easy as possible and comfort.
So is yours.
Yeah, I'm
That's,
not.
that's what everybody's culture is about.
Well, have you ever
When
experienced
you have access to things, you want to use those things to make life easier. Okay.
our customer service?
It's not about comfort.
Like ours is too.
But do you see what I mean?
No.
About England?
No, about the US. It's that everything is about making things as easy as possible. And if you
That's how every country is.
do
Yeah,
that,
but I think that's a lot of.
Just because not every infrastructure works that way, like you look at our subway system is dog shit. Meanwhile, like our train system is not as good as the train system in like other countries. Just because it's not effective doesn't mean that we don't try to make things in general as effective as we possibly can.
countries now.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, England became America.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
import your
I
culture.
mean, I remember being in England first time in the 80s, and it was very different.
yeah,
Very different.
How so?
Well, first of all, London was like all white,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was.
you know. So can we just celebrate that victory that we made a place more diverse and not, you know, like you never get a pat on the back.
No.
The people who like achieve, I feel like, in that area. There's only like, there's more to do. Of course there's more to do. But can we just get a little, hey, I think I read in Andrew Sullivan's column, like London went from like 36% to like 86% people of color, or something like that. No, maybe that's too high, but something
majority
like a
minority.
50,
Yeah.
like a 50 point
Yeah.
swing,
Many
50
different
points
cities,
yeah. Yeah.
in 2 generations, 3 generations. Okay, that's progress. I'm not a bad person to like clap for progress.
But that is an issue. That is a real issue, Bill. When because people never want to admit when things are going well. And if you only start going, oh, everything's terrible, then you start convincing everybody else that everything's terrible. When it
I would say, though, it's a little ironic because you guys are kind of saying everything is terrible because of trans people and COVID and Ozempic, I guess. Just to be clear, you're kind of doing the same thing you're accusing other people of doing in a different way.
it's not.
I mean, you say people. I feel like this is something that divides the two parties. I feel like Republicans are too like peppy about America and very sentimental about America,
True.
and think things are better, you know, like racially. I think they're in denial about racism, which is still a thing, and the left is like over exaggerating it.
Sure.
You know, they're so down on America.
That's true.
And
Again, I've said it. I think that a lot of this anti-Israeli sentiment is because of an anti-Western sentiment, which comes from an anti-American sentiment. Of Americans in America. I truly believe that's a big part of it as well. I don't think that people really care as much about the crisis in Palestine or the issues going on in Palestine as much as they care about being anti-West and anti-America. And I'm talking about Westerners and Americans thinking that somehow the West is terrible. We've done bad things, of course, but it becomes so disproportionate.
by the way, something immigrants don't like about the left.
I hate that about them.
Right, I know, I know you do.
With a
That you people who work so hard to get here, and then all you do is hear what a shithole it is, and also it's just again factually wrong because we can know what's going on in other countries. And again, these people who do not know things like this, but it does not in the least deter them from tweeting and talking and saying things. And I mean, I've seen these funny videos where they, men on the street with, 20-year-old kids and like, I'd like to live anywhere but here. Really? What do you know about Somalia? What do you know about Karachi, Pakistan? I see this porn star was very pro-Palestine.
Yeah.
Khalifa.
Yeah.
Well, I think that she's a Muslim, right? She's a Muslim person, so that kind of makes sense for her too.
And try practicing porn in Gaza. Would be my.
Try practicing porn in like any Middle Eastern country.
Is that quiz for Palestine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Is that on a T-shirt?
It was a flag. There was a bunch of people.
Right.
holding-
Listen, here's the thing. Okay, when it comes to this, I totally understand the sentiment of like, hey, Palestinian people are being oppressed by the Israeli government. I personally believe in a two-state solution. I respect the right of an Israeli state in general, but there are oppressive metrics that need to be solved, and a two-state solution seems to be the best solution. But I will say that it is very bizarre that this just comes off as so bizarre to me. And I understand a human rights issue and cheering for Palestine, but like, you are so fundamentally unwelcome in Palestine, in pretty much any Middle Eastern country, except for really Israel. As an LGBTQ person, Israel is the most progressive place out there. And I'm not saying that means that you have to agree with them, but I think that you should kind of consider like where you're safest and add that into your factor that into it when you go from the river to the sea and you talk about the expulsion of all Jews that have no answer for where they should go. I just think it's interesting. I just think it's interesting. You know what I mean? Like you would have a very bad time in Palestine. You'd have a very bad time in a lot of Middle Eastern countries as a gay person. And it's not because of the religion of Islam. It's because their governments are led by religion. Any government that has, the higher a government or the more a government is guided by a religious force, whether it's Christianity, Islam, Judaism, anything, the more oppressive that government is to their people. That's why religious conservatives are trying to take away rights for LGBTQ people. And that's why rights don't exist for LGBTQ people in a lot of Middle Eastern countries. Palestine is no exception. I really think it's something that people should consider. It's just really something that you should consider. I really just think it is.
Putting up a flag saying queers for Palestine.
I think I've seen that on a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Nice.
And try walking down the street with that. I could name a lot of places in the world.
Do you think we're victims of our own success in the West?
Yes,
We're so comfortable,
exactly.
so wealthy,
That's
so
what it is.
so genuine. I mean, Francis makes this point. Always. It's a great point.
Disconnected.
The biggest privilege any of us enjoy is first world privilege. That's the privilege.
Yeah, I say very similar things about the people who just go on and on about privilege. Don't realize that they're always being propped up by the privilege of being impractical, loose thinking, and you're just like head in the clouds, which is a great privilege to be.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's ironic.
It is.
We'll be back with our guest in a minute. But first, we want
What's
to
the
take
ad?
a moment to talk about our partners, Give, Send, Go.
Give, Send, Go
Gift, Send, Go. What do you do?
is a leading crowdfording website where
Gotcha. Cool. Gotcha, guys. If you're interested in that, go check out giftsendgo.com. Code word. These guys. I don't know.
for America, Bill?
Well,
Back to the interview.
Are you hopeful for America, Bill?
well,
I
I ain't going anywhere, so yeah. And, I mean,
You know,
I
into
am.
Karachi.
No.
I am
What
like-
about Mogadishu?
I am amazed a little bit. I am amazed a little bit that we take, man, this country.
Relax, bro. All right.
We take a licking and we
Kill me.
keep on fucking ticking.
Yeah.
Really, we keep on ticking. I mean, I thought the pandemic with that kind of spending and keeping people home would take us down. No, Trump. I can't believe we survived Trump. Are you guys Trumpers?
No.
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 However, I will
They totally are Trumpers. What are you talking about? Get the fuck out of here.
ask you this because it's interesting to me. I did not like him. His personality is obnoxious.
Yes. True.
I didn't like him.
Among others.
It's funny because I didn't really mind. I didn't really mind Donald Trump's personality because I'm a New Yorker. So when he would say some dumb shit, I'm like, yeah, typical New Yorker. I was like, whatever, I don't care. It's his policies that sucked to me more than anything else.
Things.
But
Yes.
this is what
Like some of them were okay, you know. I find it so interesting that people are like, oh my God, I can't believe we're having an Israel-Palestine conflict. Of course, it's because we have Biden. Is it? I'm pretty sure Trump did something along the lines of antagonizing Israelis by like declaring I don't know, Israel a Jewish state or something. I forget exactly what he did. It's like he wouldn't been doing any better. What are you talking about? Probably be doing worse. I don't know.
what I want to ask you, right? Because I don't know too much enough about American politics to say whether his policies were good. For
Really?
I don't.
They were
Honestly,
good.
I don't.
Why are you suddenly pleading ignorance on this? This is what you do.
No, hold on.
That's fucking Bill Barr's basic shit. What are you talking about?
Well, let's break it down, right? So,
Okay.
was his policy on the border better or worse than Joe Biden?
Looks like
It's worse. Biden's border is more secure. He just got fucking Mexico to agree to pay $1.5 billion for border wall technology. People give Biden so much shit for what's going on at the border, but Trump wasn't particularly like that much more effective. I'm just saying.
like it's the same now. 'Cause
Right.
Biden's building the wall.
At least he was trying, right? I mean,
Biden is
Biden's
too.
just letting people in. Like,
No, Biden's investing money into border wall technology. What are you talking about? You're just lying.
crazy. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I never thought a wall was a terribly practical solution
No.
because people have thought of it before, and there's just a lot of like things obviously he couldn't get through. Obviously he couldn't get it through. So that's how hard it is. You know, it's private land, or you just can't.
Yeah, it's not good for the environment. It's impractical. It's overly expensive. He got like a $5 billion quote when it was upwards of $100 billion plus, because he got a lowball quote. It doesn't it doesn't address people getting in through like plane or other ways. There's better, more financially literate ways to deal with this problem. You know, with different border wall technologies is a big one. So that's probably the way you go towards more than anything else.
Build a unporous border. Look, if the Republicans were serious about wanting to stop immigration, what they would do is they would crack down on the hiring. But they don't
True.
want to because they want the cheap labor.
Yep.
So they want to pretend that they are stopping people from coming in and they don't like people coming in, but they like it. Drives down wages, and they could do that. You could crack down on that end of it.
Okay.
But that doesn't happen. Nobody's going through the kitchen and yelling, immigration!
From my perspective, it doesn't seem like Biden is better than Trump on that. When I look at the international
Seems a little better.
situation, I mean, the American respect for America is breaking down around the world. That's why you see all these conflicts.
Well, they said,
I don't think that's true. Not for nothing, but like if you think the respect for America is breaking down over Biden, it was under Trump too. They're both a joke. Biden's just a better one. Let's just be real. You think people respected us more when we had fucking Trump, when he was shitting on our allies, pulling out of peace treaties and our different deals, like fucking environmental treaties? No, of course not. Trump is an asshole. Biden is better. He is, you know.
say that every year.
Well, we see
mean,
more conflicts around the world. That's why you see all these conflicts.
Well, they say that every year.
We don't have more conflicts around the world. We have conflicts, of course. Conflicts exist. They're going to happen regardless. What do you think that Hamas was like, you know what, Biden's president, let's fucking attack? What do you think? What are you talking about? We just have the internet, and this is the thing, is that conflicts have always been going on throughout history. We just never gave a shit about it. We never looked at it, right? Now social media is super prevalent. We're seeing more and more things going on. We're seeing people in general becoming more politically activated, and so they're talking about things more, and these are blowing up more. People even 2 years ago didn't care as much about Israel-Palestine as they do today. Like, it's going to change. And then 2 years from now, after this conflict resolves in a couple of months, because Hamas is losing emphatically and good, 2 years from now, we're going to see every 2 years, we just are going to see another Israel-Hamas problem. It just constantly is happening over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And Hamas will probably never take the deal for the solution to, a two-state solution, and it's just going to continuously go that way. So,
well, we see more conflicts every year.
Are you kidding? We're fucking kicking ass. We came back better from the pandemic economically than any other big boy country. I don't know how we do it, but if you look at like the stock market from like 1990 to now, like if you had your money in American stocks, like 3-4 times
That's
better than
economics.
anywhere else.
I'm talking about
No, but
geopolitics.
it matters.
It's different.
I mean,
of course it matters.
You know,
No, you're right.
I mean, the dollar is nobody's really even.
these guys are getting twisted out on the fucking Bill Maher's like literally fucking owning these guys. And you could tell Bill Maher's trying to be sensitive towards the beginning of the podcast and kind of like dancing around some issues. But by the end, he's just like, yeah, you guys are just full of shit. And I like them. They're not bad people. They're kind of dorky looking, but like, yeah, they're being silly.
Pretending that they could like replace the dollar or would want to. I mean, with our kind of debt, at some point, is some of this going to come crashing down? It absolutely could. But I don't know. Like, we just keep on ticking. I'm surprised that with all the shit going on, But
America's a great country, but what I'm trying to get at with you, it is a great country.
no,
We
I'm
love-
not Mr. Rah-Rah. I'm just saying
Okay.
these are the facts. The biggest, like 5 biggest tech companies
Yeah.
in the world, I think, are all American.
Of
I mean,
course.
now China has, some things that we don't, but our military is still like there's nobody even close.
I couldn't agree with you more.
I'm just saying. So,
But I'm going to disagree with you.
I'm Team America. I am.
no, this isn't about bragging about America. This is just factually like where we are. Let's not be.
100%.
Let's not have the wrong idea in our head about where our exact place in the world is.
Bro.
We're taking on water, but for some reason we're not sinking.
I'm just trying to get to the question, which is you said something, which is very interesting to me. You're a smart guy, you're a nuanced thinker, but you said we survived Trump, and that surprised you.
Totally.
What is it
Are you
about?
kidding?
So give people.
Because he's crazy. First of all, he's stupid and he's crazy. I
Is he
always make
stupid,
these.
Bill?
So
He can't.
Yeah, he's stupid. Come on, even if you like him,
he thought Frederick Douglass was alive. Are you kidding? Yes, he's stupid. He has a Hitlerian ability to move crowds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Often with the same sort of thoughts.
Well, Biden. Trump is just very ignorant, but he speaks very confidently, and that's charisma. Being stupid and confident is just charisma, basically. You could be smart and confident as well, of course, but the dumber you are, it's easier to be confident. It seems. Yeah, he knows how to move a crowd. He knows how to speak to them. He knows how to capitalize on things. You see Trump talking about how if he gets reelected, he's just going to implement a complete Muslim travel ban. And he's going to resolve the Israeli-Palestine conflict. Do you think he thinks that? No, of course not. Do you think he cares? No, of course not. He's an opportunist. He's going to say what he thinks people want to hear. So, yeah.
About you're cheated and the soil and all this shit. Obviously, he never went where Hitler went. I'm not comparing him with Hitler in that way, but just as a insane, but that also made him genius politician.
Okay.
Who can move people and just owns fucking people, just like owns them. And that's his talent. But is he stupid? Yes. And he's fucking crazy.
But aren't those two things in Congress
So
that you've just said? That
yeah.
he's a politician of genius and he's stupid.
Politician.
Yeah, of genius. But
Yes.
but that,
The only genius he is. Politically, he's a genius.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't even think about it. It just comes out of his id. And that works for people. Even though he's the most full of shit guy, he also is like the
I guess he appeals to people because he just says whatever he's thinking. Same, you know what I mean?
most honest. Like when he says shithole countries, like lots of immigrants are like, yeah, that's exactly where I came from. Why do you think I fucking walked 1,000 miles to get
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things about Trump, when he says shithole country. This is the thing, right? Because when I heard him say that, I was like, might have a little bit of a point, right? The problem with that is there's different school. When you say something vague, it can be considered a dog whistle to different people. So if you hear like, hey, this country's a shithole, that's not particularly sensitive. You just shouldn't say it. Some people might be like, yeah, that country is kind of poor. It kind of sucks. Some people might be like, yep, here's an excuse for me to hate a different group of people, right? You don't know what you're going to get out of there. Some people might be immigrants from that country saying, that's why I left. You don't really know, and that's why you don't speak like that, right? It might be funny and interesting for you to hear a president say something so fucking crazy, but that doesn't make it right. Right, and that's the bigger issue more than anything else. As a president, you're not communicating to 10 guys in a boardroom. You're communicating to the entire world. So you have to be careful in the way that you speak about topics. You need to be a level of sensitive, and there is a way to be blunt and sensitive. Trump just hasn't really hit the mark on that.
here? Because I was in a shithole. And this guy doesn't mince words. And because he almost... Yeah, he can't help himself. He reveals himself. It's insanity photographs. What can I tell you? So he's mesmerizing to the media too. So he gets all that coverage. But yes, am I surprised we survived? And we really haven't yet, because he still hasn't conceded that election.
Well, that's why I'm asking.
Just the idea of a guy who doesn't concede elections. Okay, you guys should stop worrying about all these other little That's it. That's the ball game. If the guy doesn't concede election,
I mean, that's fair. I mean, that I guess you would call that some form of fascism, no? Yeah, that's a pretty big deal.
Did Hillary concede elections?
yeah, of
Yes.
course Hillary conceded.
He
She
said
ca-
he's an illegitimate president.
Okay, she said that, and then she gave up. He's still saying today, he like sued. What are you talking about?
When did she say that?
She said that in 2016. She said he knows he is an illegitimate president.
I believe he knows he's an illegitimate president. He knows.
I think that that's probably different than going on a month-long tirade and trying to have like interference in the elections and saying things suggestive of make votes for me so that it seems like I won in different states. It's a little different. Like comparing the two, hate Hillary all you want, that's fine. Comparing the two is fucking psychopath shit. Like it's clear at that point that you just want to love Trump. You have a Trump owner.
knows that there were a bunch of different reasons why the election turned out.
Yeah, the biggest reason, well, there's a few different reasons. Like one is that usually you don't see 3 terms of the same party. Another reason is because she's a woman. I'm not saying that like there isn't things to hate about her, but like I've heard multiple people, and it makes sense. I understand where they're coming from. Where they're like, I don't want to vote for a woman because I think the rest of the world would think we're a joke. So while I may disagree with that, I don't care about that because the rest of the world will suck my dick. I think it is a factor there, and I understand where they're coming from. And part of it is because like the whole the entire email thing blew up like the day before the election again. So
The way it did, and I take responsibility for those parts of it that I should. And
I didn't say
so
month long,
I
months
know
long.
that he knows that this wasn't on the level. I don't know that we'll ever know everything that happened, but clearly we
this
know.
isn't even close to the same of what Trump's doing. He started a fucking riot. He said something along the lines of like, we need to like fight now more than ever. Like he incited January 6th. Like it's not the same thing.
A lot and are learning more every day, and history will probably sort it all out. So of course he's obsessed with me, and I believe that it's a guilty conscience in so much as he has a conscience.
After the election.
Yeah. Russia collusion, what was that if not denying the election?
Well, they investigated it and they found that there were ties to Russia. It just wasn't like some kind of Russian collusion narrative in like a negative way. Just to be clear, I believe 14 people in Trump's team got fucking indicted on the Russia investigation, and then it was found to be an objective fact. This isn't debatable. It was an objective fact that Russia interfered in our election to help Trump win. They didn't work with Trump, but it was an objective fact that existed. They were running massive disinformation campaigns through Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and any other, well, maybe not TikTok, but any other social media platform to sway the election and to create more and more conflict. That's a fact. Like you could say, no, that's not true. You're wrong. Objectively. Sorry. That's a fact of the matter. It was shown that like Trump met with like a Kremlin or whatever the fuck linked like Russian lawyer, and they lied at first and said it was just about Russian adoption, and then it turned out that he was like asking for dirt on Hillary, and then he was like, who fucking cares? It's just opposition research. And it's like, okay, so like shut the fuck up. What are you talking? It's not even close to the same. You're just saying, these guys are fucking, like, they're babies. They're fucking source, look it up. Holy fuck. This is like, source my balls. This is so fucking easy to look up. Just look it up. Like, what do you don't have Google? The reason that people downplay the Russian investigation, the reason that people don't downplay the Russian investigation is because fucking the left media hyped it up as if like Trump was going to be fucking in jail tomorrow. And then that came crashing down. It was bad, but it wasn't as bad, so people downplay it. But it wasn't good. If Biden did a fucking 10th of what was going on, the conservatives would be shitting and coming. They still are obsessing about Hunter Biden's cock on his laptop and the fact that he does drugs and that he got his kid a fucking job, because who doesn't? But the fucking countless indictments that are going on, like nobody takes that into account. What are you talking about? So, like, this is what happened. Go look up the investigation. Like, that is what happened. This is why that there's so much crackdown from the government onto things like Facebook and other social media, because of the massive amount of misinformation that was able to get pushed through during that election. That's what happened. Like, people don't realize that.
They made up a story, which was a hoax.
No, they didn't. It wasn't even a hoax. Dude, it wasn't a fucking hoax. Russian collusion wasn't a hoax. Russian collusion was a sensationalized left-wing media talking point based on a fact that Russia did interfere in our election. What are you talking about? It's not a fucking hoax. They found bot farms of bot accounts that were creating false material, and then other bot accounts boosting that, and then other bot accounts boosting those, until it got to like a bunch of dumb fucking conservatives who will believe anything on the goddamn internet. Not the progressives are much better.
Well, it wasn't a hoax.
Yeah, it was.
No, it wasn't.
Well,
wasn't
just
true.
what wasn't true? What part
The
of it?
Russia collusion, the idea that
There was collusion with Russia.
The idea that
There was absolute collusion with Russia.
Is that why he won the election? Do you think?
Partly.
Yeah.
It was a very close election. Yeah, you don't think Russia could sway 77,000 votes in 3 states? Of course they could, and they did. Partly through social.
Look at him. He feels so stupid. Look at his fucking eyes here. This is so funny. Bill Maher's fucking based.
3 states? Of course they could, and they did.
He looks down. He's like, he's getting fucking dumpstered.
Partly through social media.
Yeah.
Partly for their propaganda there and what they were trying to do there, which was very successful. Cost about $100,000. And then, I mean, Trump's campaign manager was trading campaign data with a GRU.
I think what Trump was saying is completely wrong. I agree. But
there was
But
collusion.
the Democrats also denied the election in 2016.
What?
They did.
Okay, I mean, maybe one time Hillary said something like that. You ask her today, this is not an issue for the Democrats. You're making a ridiculously false.
You think?
Of course. This motherfucker incited January 6th, and you're comparing it to Hillary, who cried on a fucking interview one time. Donald Trump has done 1,000 times more of that denial shit.
Comparison, of course. Democrats are not the ones who deny elections. Hillary got up there in her fucking purple suit and said, we lost. Al Gore did it, took one for the fucking team in 2000.
Yeah.
Agreed.
It's just a ridiculous false comparison.
Analogy. False comparison.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Well, good for them for not editing them getting completely fucking sloshed on that point.
looking at Trump,
This is so funny. They're getting fucking decimated. Bro, this is the thing. Like, you look at Bill Maher, and there's things that I disagree with some of the narrative stuff on him. But, like, you can tell that, like, he's an intelligent guy. He knows what he's talking about. And, like, I can appreciate everything that he's saying. Like, he's honest about everything. These guys just seem to, like, have this weird narrative. Bro, this is so funny. These two are the reason for, like, I don't know. Listen, when I look at these two and their, like, weird fucking interpretation, their support of Trump, to me, it's more anti-Western bullshit, right? Donald Trump isn't really pro-Western society, in my opinion, right? So these two are, like, he's literally trying to say that he was illegitimately fucking lost. He's trying to overthrow the government with January 6th bullshit. He just was unsuccessful about it. He's, like, stealing documents and hiding them in his house. He's trying to have sways in the elections. Anti-West. That's anti-West to me. Anti-West sentiment with Trump. They're supporting anti-Westerners. Guess what else is anti-West? People who will do the river to the sea bullshit. Fucking queers for Palestine, same fucking thing. You're anti-West like they are, and you don't even realize it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is what I'm talking about.
let's look at on a global scale, like we were talking about before. If you look at what with Biden when he's come to power, there has been the Russian invasion of Ukraine. There's been
Russia has been pushing Ukraine always.
a disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how. Listen, not for nothing, hot take, but like anytime, doesn't matter how we withdrew from Afghanistan, it was going to be contested, and people were going to complain about it. It was never going to go like well. It was never going to go perfectly. People were always going to complain about Afghanistan, of course. I think the bigger disaster is once we left there, women were immediately fucking. The women there were immediately like oppressed and like no longer allowed to go to college and shit. So like I think we should focus on that too. People talk about how bad, America's so bad. What about those women there are now more oppressed than since we left?
And you've also as well got, Bill, now this situation flaring up. And some people would say the argument that they put forward is
They're
this
huge
is all
forward.
happening because Biden is a weak leader.
How?
People have seen that and are using that.
Like, all jokes aside, despite the fact that he's tumbling over himself and eating ice cream, what's weak about Biden? I mean, he's more bipartisan than any other crew of people. He expanded the fucking Fed, which got more money for our government. He did something with some student loans for like nurses and people in the military. He's gotten border wall technology pushed into a good place. He's standing strong with Israel and not letting them get fucked over, and not acknowledging bullshit ceasefire agreements that don't acknowledge that Hamas is a terrorist state and that Israel has a right to defend themselves. That has no pressures on Hamas or any Eastern country, putting no pressures on Hamas. Where is Biden like really that weak? The economy's blown back pretty strong. What is so weak about Biden? Like, honestly, other than the fact that he babbles sometimes. Like, really, like, honestly, obviously there's criticisms, but oh, he's so weak. Where? Like, how weak is he? You know? I'm just saying, he's not really that bad. I don't know what to tell you. You know? Certainly could be worse. He certainly could be worse. Let me see if I can find this. Here, listen. Okay? This is if you ever don't like Biden, you're like, oh, he's weak, oh, he's this, oh, he's that. Let me show you some Biden propaganda, okay? That'll make you realize that he is the greatest president, all right? Are you ready for this, dude? Listen to this. Listen.
Do not scare easily. We never bow. We never bend. We never break when confronted with crisis. We are America, second to none, and we own the finish line.
I love the stumble, dude. Unironically, this video fucking gets me every single time. I came across this Dark Brandon video like a couple of months ago, and let me tell you, my fucking patriotism levels exploded. There's nothing that gets my fucking dick harder for America than this edit. I don't know what to tell you, bro. We own the finish line. There's no harder line in the entirety of American history. There's nothing. This is it. You cannot beat this one. You can't beat this one, dude. It's fucking insane. That shit literally like gets me going. I will, let me tell you something. I come across that edit sometimes on my feed, or I'll come across a different like video and it'll remind me of the edit, and I go and I watch that edit again, dude. It actually literally gets my fucking nuts twisted. It's insane. It's insane. I don't know what to tell you, dude. I don't know what to tell you. It does. It just gets my fucking gonads going.
Opportunity to then pursue their own ends.
Well, you know, whenever I hear something like the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, it's just like, oh, right-wing talking point. Not that it's not.
One of the disastrous parts of the withdrawal from Afghanistan was the fact that we tried to train 80,000 troops, Afghani troops or Afghanistan troops over there, and they just sucked. Like, I remember watching some videos from the military that were training. They're like, these guys are terrible. They're like, apparently, like, most of them were drunk. They were just kind of fucking around. And it was just inevitable without our support. That country, they weren't going to be able to defend their government, and they didn't. Like, it's what are you supposed to do? So you have a hard choice. You either stay there, continue our influence, and help make the people safer. Fact, sorry. Or you withdraw, and then the government goes back to oppressing its people. Those are your two options sometimes. We did the best we could. We pulled out. It is what it is. Could have been worse.
Not true. It is true, but it's like, really give a shit. I mean, should they have handled it better? Absolutely. I'm not sure America ever handles anything well. We're just a fuck-up country now in a lot of ways. I don't know if any president under any conditions, but this one finally said, let's get the fuck out of here. This is a crazy thing to be here forever. We're here 20 years. We just got to go. I mean, it's probably going to be shitty no matter how we do it. Now, you know, if Mitt Romney was president, would it have gone better? Yeah, I bet it would. Because Mitt Romney was like much more of a detail, you know, he tried to cast himself as a conservative, real hard right guy when he ran. He was a manager of detail. He was a Mormon, couldn't be a nicer guy. Could he have, yeah, he might have been the guy who like stayed up looking over the plans and the data at 4 a.m. You know, Clinton was that guy. You know, people who really like government want to make it work well. Biden's not that guy.
Yeah.
He didn't do that with Afghanistan. But it's like, you know, just so reflexive. Here's something we can hate about this guy who we want to talk bad about. I'm not on that page. That's a little too, like, just one-sided for me. He, you know, do I love everything with Joe Biden? Absolutely not. Last week I called for him to not run again.
Well, he's getting a little
Ruth Bader Biden, I would call.
You think he's too old?
Yeah, true Mormons are very nice. Yeah, true.
I think the country does, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
And he will not win. He'll look terrible in the debates, and Trump
Probably.
will win, and that will be a disaster. And this should be
Maybe who's the runner up? Who can really take the? You need somebody that's got some balls to go up against Trump. Like, you got to get somebody with some balls to go up against Trump, who will play a little bit dirty. You know what I mean? Who is that person?
no discussion after he does not concede elections. Not, I mean, yes, Stacey Abrams also said something about, I mean, this is like, yes, you can always make some case on the other side. It has nothing to do with a guy who was president, never advertised he was never going to concede an election. Didn't, still doesn't, will do it again. That's nothing is on that level. If that is where you are, I don't care what his fucking policy on Turkmenistan
I hear
is.
you.
Yeah.
I hear you.
It's,
Get it.
you're just
I hear you. You don't hear him, bro. You don't hear him.
But
qualified.
democracy relies on losers' consent.
Correct. It's what we have over the other countries.
It's like Bill Maher has to convince them that when you lose an election, you should probably bow out. Isn't that crazy?
So many other countries in the world can't get that one thing right.
Yeah.
Like the old Soviet.
Yeah, I don't think Cenk Uygur could take Trump, and Vivek Ramaswamy cannot take Trump either. Like, the problem is that Trump, there's something weirdly, genuinely ingenuine about Trump. He's not a genuine person, but he is a genuine person. Like, he doesn't give a shit about any of the things that he talks about. I genuinely believe Trump does not give a fuck. He doesn't care about the fucking Middle East. He doesn't care about anything. He doesn't care about abortion. But he makes you think he cares. Cenk sounds like he's just performing always. Trump is just an obnoxious asshole New Yorker. You know what I mean? So
days used to always see, like, they would check like who was standing closest to the coffin, you know, like, and that was usually the guy who knocked off the guy before him, or who was going to be next. And you know, it wasn't done through a system. It was like, who was just going to, like,
$1.99. Vote Brett Peterson for president.
very based. Thank you, brother. Thank you.
it was Survivor.
Yeah.
You know, and then it was, oh, Brezhnev, okay. And then he got to be, and then, that's not the way we did it. And this guy wants to bring that to here.
Yeah, that doesn't work. Do
It's-
you think
it's-
one of the distinctions as well is what happened on January the 6th, right?
Yeah.
Because whatever the Democrats may have said, that never happened.
What?
That it was just a different level, you know, people physically
Right.
going into the Capitol.
And I mean, it's not what Trump said on that day. It wasn't like he got up there and said, go.
No, he didn't explicitly say to go and fucking attack, but what he said started, like, riled people up. He's like, we have to fight now more than ever. Some wild shit like that.
Take over the Capitol. Kind of. Not totally. It was that up until that moment, he still hadn't conceded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the whole, it's not one moment. It was like his
agreed.
whole view that he was telling his people that this, and, you know, when you do this against what Republican vote counters were telling him,
Do you
I
think?
mean, that's bending over backwards.
Yeah.
Even the Republicans told him, his own people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's why people were pissed off at Mike Pence, because he was like, yeah, you lost.
the decent people who are Republicans in many states, all these states where lawsuits were, you know, this was laughed out of court like 60 times or something. And they still tried to peddle that bull. That is just unacceptable. Don't come to me with, like, and Trump did this. No.
That's fair enough, Bill. And do you think in 2024, do you think he's gonna win the nomination? Do you think he's gonna go the whole way?
Bro, it's weird because I think he is, even though he's not in the debates. He seems to be doing pretty well. So
there's no doubt he'll be the nominee, and he very well could win. And then we would be, I believe, governed.
If he wins, that'll be a pop up for my career. Because this is the thing about Donald Trump when he was in office. He was a huge spectacle. The news was a huge spectacle. Politics was a huge spectacle. And he was so fucking dumb. And on a personal level, I kind of like the guy. Presidential level, I don't. But he was so fucking dumb that it was like a slam dunk. He would just say like the fucking the sky's orange, and you're like, no, it's not. And people are like, yes, you're right, Papa Guy. What a low. There was a low intelligence entry point for doing political content when Trump was president because he was so fucking stupid that you were just contesting dumb fucking shit, and people were just like, no, you know what? I think I see it too. I can't really see. I got cataracts because we don't have healthcare, but fuck it, I see it. It's insane. It's insane.
By him under house arrest at Mar-a-Lago. That's probably where he will be, and he will run the country from Mar-a-Lago. They will never put him in jail, but he will be convicted at least in one of these trials, and then he will be. I mean, it'll be like in Goodfellas where they smuggle in a salami. He's got
Cooking
wine.
the tomatoes.
They're wearing tracksuits. I mean, it's not going to be some Jeffrey Epstein jail cell. He'll probably be house arrest at Mar-a-Lago. That is where that's the final, and then AI takes over in that work. I honestly, with AI, don't think we'll make it through the decade.
You've been reading about that.
I got Tristan Harris on Real Time Friday, and
I mean, they're getting better and better at defaking things. So
we're going to talk about it, and I have been reading about it, and it's super frightening. But yeah, I got to go back to my day job.
Bill, what a pleasure! It's been great.
Such a pleasure.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys
Thank you.
coming in. I love what you do. I feel like this stern talking to tonight was well in order. I hope to see it reflected in your show in the future. All right, best of luck, boys.
Thanks, Bill.
okay, video, cool stuff. Very poggers. That's all I had to say. Very poggers is it.